Tonight, CNN debunks what you've been guessing and confronts what you've been stressing. The truths and misconceptions, the myths and true confessions about black men. You'll learn who we are today and who we were back then, and hopefully by the end, you'll see us for who we are. Because just like you, we are perfectly imperfect, beautiful yet flawed. In the next 2 hours plan to take in the full scope and scape of the land, in the hopes you'll understand what it means to be a man, to be a black man in America.
I get up every morning and go to work, and I just love looking at that view.
My name is Butch Warren.
When we first moved out here, my son said, "Dad, this place is scary." He said, "I don't hear anything out here but crickets." It's amazing how far we've come from where I grew up to where I am now.
I would ride around and smoke my dope while riding in my car because I couldn't trust anybody. My name is Akono Ayapo Ikundayo. Being so high, you wouldn't even realize that it was day or night. Really talk about, you know, being in the pit of hell.
Akono Ikundayo and Butch Warren walk in two very different worlds, yet they came from the same place, the same roots. Back in 1968, they walked these halls together. The halls of historic Little Rock Central High School.
I have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
How long have you lived in this neighborhood?
10 years now.
45 years after Martin Luther King delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, Butch Warren is living his dream.
Hey kids, how you all doing? Let's do a little walk.
He's an assistant school superintendent.
Totally unacceptable.
His wife Joyce, a circuit court judge, the first black woman to sit on the bench in the state of Arkansas.
Thank you.
The Warrens have 3 sons and live here in this mostly white suburb of Little Rock.
There is a lot of pressure on keeping up your lawns out here. You know, you get your Bermuda grasses, your zoysia grasses, you got all these different things that you got to have.
Until recently, Akono Ikundayo has been living a nightmare.
Every day was the next hit or the next crime I was going to commit. I didn't see any hope.
Akono is a recovering crack addict who served time in prison.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well.
Today, he's a preacher, counseling black men spiritually and socially at this Atlanta mission.
We're still in penitentiaries. We're still hooked on drugs and alcohol. We're still in the graveyard. Guess it would be right about here. Hey, Pop. Been a long time.
Akono grew up in a single-parent home. His father was never around and died when Akono was just 9 years old.
They couldn't even put a mark on your grave. When he died, it just shattered, took my whole life away from me. I realized that I would never have a person to teach me how to be a man. It was just like a whirlwind.
He was born Kenneth Roy Allen in Little Rock in 1950. Just a year after his father's death, he was hanging out at Red's Pool Hall on 9th Street, dabbling with drugs.
So now who's going to teach me? Slim, Pookie, all these gangsters and, you know, pimps and stuff on the street that I'm already around.
Do you trace a lot of your problems that you had to lack of a father?
All of my problems started there.
But when he turned 13, Kenneth was given an opportunity to change. He was offered a chance to attend Central High School, a landmark in the fight for racial equality.
For my mom, it was like, oh, my son is going to Little Rock Central and he's going to go on to become something.
Units of the National Guard are now being mobilized.
On September 25th, 1957, the eyes of the world were focused on Little Rock as 9 black students integrated Central High School under armed guard. It's a day Butch Warren will never forget. His cousin, Carlotta Walls, was one of those Little Rock 9.
I was 7 years old, and I got a chance to see the Jeeps escorting the cars.
He grew up in a close-knit family where church came first. His mother was a social worker, active in the NAACP. His father, a postman, who made sure that Butch would learn and love to read. Everyone had high hopes for Butch.
We talked about education around the house a lot.
My homeroom was either here or here.
For the Warren family, Little Rock Central High was an icon. It represented equality and a place for their son to shine with the brightest.
They had the best gym, the best biology lab. They said they had the best teachers. And, I mean, this was the cream of the crop.
But Butch walked into an atmosphere of hatred and bigotry.
You knew you weren't welcome the first day you got here. They made it really clear. Those lockers that I was thrown into, bumped into, knocked into, had lots of dents and bruises in it.
What was the message?
We don't want you here. Point blank, you got your own high school, why don't you go there?
And it was tough for Kenneth, even though he was a star on the football team.
It was hell. We fought from the time we got in school until the time we left school. All they had to do was say the N-word, you understand, and the fight was on.
Kenneth and Butch had teachers who ignored black students, who discouraged them from higher education.
You sat down with your guidance counselor.
He asked me, he said, well, what you want to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go to college. And he said, well, have you ever thought about being a sanitation worker or a carpenter? And I kind of looked at him like, you got to be out of your mind.
Why?
I thought it was better than that. You know, I had aspirations to be a psychologist.
Mine eyes have seen the glory.
Then, that dark day when everything seemed to change. April 4th, 1968.
We still remember it vividly.
Martin Luther King, 20 minutes ago, died.
And we remembered how the kids taunted us and teased us in the hallways and said, goody, goody, your Jesus is dead.
Every black kid in class stopped what they were doing. And a teacher looks at me and I look at her and like, better not say not a word to me. You know, I think I broke a desk getting up out of the class I was in and walked out of school.
We all met in front of the school, and there were white kids hanging all out of the windows up here, and they were pointing and laughing, and they were just having themselves a good time.
It was like somebody stuck a knife in my back through my heart. When I got on the streets, you know, I can feel that the front of my shirt is wet because I've been crying, and I didn't realize I was crying.
We all came down these steps and lined up there on the sidewalk. And then we marched from here approximately a mile to Canaan Baptist Church.
It was just an open place where we could go to hear others say to us that the situation was going to be all right and for us not to do anything crazy.
We were very angry in our hearts about his assassination and his death, but we wanted to make sure that we did everything the way Dr. King would want us to do it. We wanted to bring honor to his name.
Well, I didn't go back to school for probably about a week. Some of the kids were talking about when they got back to school, folks saying, well, what y'all gonna do now? You know, what you gonna do now? Martin Luther King is dead.
Here's the black leader that's trying to make things better for everybody. And here he is assassinated, dead. He's got a wife, he's got kids and family, and they're laughing. I mean...
Still upsetting to you.
Yes.
In the 40 years since the assassination of Dr. King, these two men have lived in two different black Americas. One of opportunity, the other an economically deprived landscape where dreams are denied. When we come back, Kenneth Allen's story.
We were standing in front of her with both guns drawn, with a shotgun and a .38, and then it said, drop and give us all your money.